Hey everybody, and welcome to another A plus 1102 lesson with some practice questions at the end, where I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about everything in Exam Objective 2.6, and then give you those practice questions at the end to make sure that you are ready for the questions that you might get on your exam. Today we're looking at configuring a workstation to meet best practices for security, and we're going to start with data at rest encryption. Let's get straight to it. What is data at rest encryption? So data at rest refers to information stored on devices, any device really. It's not in transit, right? It's on your system, but it's not in transit. Data at rest is when it's there, it's stored, but you're not necessarily transferring it or sending it to anyone. It's just sitting there, not doing much. So it's on your system, not in transit. It is data at rest. It's resting. It's not walking. It's resting. So if you encrypt that data, we know what encryption is by now. It means that you cannot read it without the correct decryption key. So here's some best practices relating to data at rest encryption. You always want to make sure you're using it, especially if it is secure, if you're handling secure files or data. So, and you have a couple of options. You've got full disk encryption, which is when you can use things to the effect of BitLocker on Windows or FireVault on Mac OS to encrypt the entire drive, including the operating system and all data. So that means that even if the physical device is lost or stolen, all of the data remains inaccessible, all of the data on that drive. You can also use file level encryption. So we talked about encrypting file system in the last video for Windows, which only encrypts it at a file level. And you want to make sure that you're choosing strong encryption algorithms. So we talked about those different encryption algorithms in a previous video. Make sure you were using one of the strong ones, but you'd want to choose an encryption algorithm approved by industry standards such as AES 256. But just you don't necessarily need to know the specific names for this, but just remember you want to use a strong encryption algorithm, which is pretty intuitive, I guess, right? And then make sure you have secure key management. So don't just leave your keys out in the open. Make sure you have a dedicated key management system or hardware security module to manage any decryption keys that you are using. Sorry, encryption keys. Okay. Now, password best practices. This is pretty intuitive. We'll fly through this. You want to make sure that you meet the following requirements, and you just know what these terms mean. So a complexity requirement is talking about how complex your password is. So you'll need to have a minimum length and a variety of character types. So lowercase and uppercase, symbols, numerals, things to that effect. That is what complexity requirements is talking about. Expiration requirements is when, after a certain amount of time occurs, your password needs to be renewed or changed to keep it updating. So when you see the term expiration requirement for password, it just means that your password will expire after a certain amount of time, and you'll need to set a new password. Basic BIOS passwords is referring to setting a password for your BIOS itself, and the reason this is good is because it adds an additional layer of security at the hardware level. So the password protects against unauthorized access to the system before the OS boots up. So it's just that additional layer of security before the OS boots up. You actually have a password on your BIOS itself. And of course, same thing goes for this. You'd want to set strong passwords for the BIOS, adhering to the same things we talk about up here. All right, now end user best practices, the person using the device itself. What can you do to follow best practices? You can use screensaver locks. Each of these dot points, it is actually stated that you need to know about for your exam. So you can use screensaver locks, which is when basically after a short period of inactivity, your screen will lock and you'll need to input a PIN or a password or log in to get past your screensaver and into your device. You'll need to log off when not in use. So if you step away from your workstation, it's always a good idea to log off so no one can access your device at all. And then of course you want to make sure you secure your critical hardware. So if you've got a laptop, use a strong lock or cable lock when you're in a public place so that no one can pick it up and walk away. And of course, probably don't leave your laptop unattended in a public place. Those are concepts you need to know about for your exam. And then secure personally identifiable information and passwords. So be cautious about sharing anything that can personally identify you or your passwords. Basically, you shouldn't do it unless you have to with a government agency or something to that effect. Okay, and we are already up to account management. So we're down here now. We're kind of flying through this one. There's really not a lot to it. It's all pretty intuitive stuff. So account management best practices. Make sure you restrict user permissions. Only give everyone the amount of permissions that they need to do what they need to do. Don't give everyone administrative level privileges. Implement the principle of least privilege, which is where you give people the minimum permissions that they need to do their job, to have the highest amount of security you can there. Restrict login time. So configure login restrictions based on specific times or days to limit access outside of authorized working hours. So make sure, if you want, you can set it so that people can only log in during work hours, so that they're not like sneaking into the office at night and doing something sneaky. They actually won't be able to log in, even if they do want to do that. You can disable guest accounts. So the guest account is often enabled, but provides unauthenticated access to the system, which isn't always a good idea. If you don't need a guest account, you should probably disable it. You can use failed attempts logout settings. So if people try to log in 3 times and they get it wrong, you'll be locked out of the system. It's always a good idea to set that, and then use the timeout/screen lock, which we already covered, but it's here again. So again, just if you are away from your system, you'll get a screensaver or a screen lock, which you'll then need to log in to gain access to your system again. That is always a good idea to have. You should always have that turned on. Change default admin user account/password. Often the administrator account has a default password. It's often admin. So make sure you change that to a customized password, so that no one can just walk in, type in admin, and then get access to the system. That's pretty much it. Doing that is a good idea, because then no one can just gain access to your system by typing in the default password. So change the default admin password. That's really all you need to know about that. And then disable auto run. So auto run is a feature in Windows versions that automatically executes programs or scripts from removable devices such as USB drives or CDs when inserted. You want to make sure you disable that, because if you insert something and it has malware on it, it's automatically going to start running. You don't want that to happen. So make sure you turn that off. Same thing for autoplay. So that attempts to open or execute files on removable media such as USB drives or CDs. For the same reason, you want to disable that. Make sure that is not enabled. All right, let's get into some questions. The first question reads, which of the following encryption methods provides the most comprehensive protection for a workstation's data at rest? A, EFS for specific folders containing highly sensitive data. B, strong password policies like and MFA for user accounts. C, full disk encryption with a robust algorithm like AES 256. Or D, antivirus and anti-malware software to prevent unauthorized access. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer in 3, 2, 1, now. It is full disk encryption with a robust algorithm like AES 256. So encrypting the full disk is better than encrypting specific files if you want what the question asks for, which is comprehensive protection for a workstation's data at rest. Workstation implies all the data on that workstation, which is what full disk encryption will do. Next question. When implementing full disk encryption in an enterprise setting, where should you store the encryption keys securely? A, on a separate partition of the same hard drive. B, in a cloud storage service with strong access controls. C, within the user's profile directory on the workstation. Or D, in a dedicated HSM or KMS. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer in 3, 2, 1, now. It is D, in a dedicated HSM or KMS. These are dedicated systems for storing these encryption keys. You would want to use these. They are the best option, essentially. You can read more detail here, but always use dedicated systems to store your encryption keys. Next question reads, Alex has been told by his employer that his password does not contain 12 characters or an adequate combination of letters, numbers, and special characters. Which of the following did Alex fail to meet? A, expiration requirements. B, BIOS password requirements. C, complexity requirements. Or D, MFA requirements. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer in 3, 2, 1, now. It is complexity requirements. That was describing the complexity of the password. Next one reads, you would like to add an additional layer of security on your device. You have ensured to meet the complexity and expiration requirements of the password on your device's default login screen, but you have decided to enable an additional security measure that requires authentication prior to your device booting the OS. Which of the following best describes this additional security measure? A, MFA password. B, anti-whaling password. C, BIOS/UEFI password. Or D, data encrypting file system password. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer in 3, 2, 1, now. It is C, BIOS or UEFI password. That password before the OS boots up is the password for your BIOS. All right, that is what that was describing. Next question. says Derek decided to implement a strategy to physically secure his laptop while he leaves his laptop on the table and takes a phone call outside the local library. Which end user best practice did Derek most likely implement? A. Screensaver lock. B. Log off when not in use. C. Protect critical hardware. Or D. Secure PII. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer in 3, 2, 1. Now, your answer is C. Protect critical hardware. Derek was protecting his critical hardware by securing it. Next question reads, Steph has decided to implement some account management techniques that she learned at a recent professional development day. She has configured her company's device to utilize the principle of least privilege. Which account management category does this best fit into? A. Restrict user permissions. B. Restrict login times. C. Disable guest account. Or D. Use failed attempts lockout. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. It is A. Restrict user permissions. The principle of least privilege is when you give people the least amount of privilege permissions that they need to do their job. So you are restricting their permissions. That's the best fitting answer there. Next question. After a period of inactivity, your desktop requires you to log in again. Which category of account management does this fall under? A. Disable guest account. B. Use screen lock. C. Restrict user permissions. Or D. Restrict login times. Answer 3, 2, 1. Now, it is use a screen lock. That was describing the use of a screen lock. Next question reads, you are trying some techniques that you learned while researching how to become the world's best hacker and find success in an easily fixable but often overlooked vulnerability within a network. You have gained full control over all files within the network. Which vulnerability did you likely exploit? A. Port 80 was open. B. Default administrator password. C. Lack of complexity in passwords. Or D. Telnet was in use. Your answer in 3, 2, 1. Pause the video if you need more time. Now, it is B. Default administrator password. So the key thing that gave away it was default admin password was really it could have been a lack of complexity. It could have been Telnet. These are both, common vulnerabilities, but it's specified you've gained full control over all files within the network. Even if there's a lack of complexity in passwords, that doesn't specify it's an admin account. It could be just a regular account, which would not grant you full control. Telnet, if we remember from the 1101, is an insecure protocol that sends data in clear text, so it can be intercepted and read, so you can literally read people's passwords. But again, it doesn't specify admin account there. So the only one that would result in full control over all files within the network would be the default admin password, because that would give you access to the administrator account. That's the only one that would definitely do that. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you head over to journeytocyber.com, because over there I have my learning guide for the A+ 1102 exam, and for that you get comprehensive notes, active recall questions, and practice exam questions for every single dot point within every single exam objective. That's right, I break it down in fine detail for every single dot point within every single exam objective. Here's what people have said about my last learning guide. So they said, your learning guide is actually goated. I don't comment a lot, but it helps with organized information and helps me piece things together more easily. Update, your notes definitely helped me pass my test today. I downloaded your learning guide and I can see it will help me immensely with studying. I tried other popular resources, but struggled absorbing the material. Did I skip any? No, that's it. Oh, there you go. Okay, so if you want to grab that, you'll be as happy as this guy. That's over at journeytocyber.com. I'll say it again, journeytocyber.com, all one word. So with that being said, if you don't want to grab that, that's all good. I'll see you in the next video. This is just if you want to get access to everything you need right now and have some additional information and questions available to you that you wouldn't have just in my video series. So I'll leave you to it, and thank you for choosing me to help you through your 1102 journey.